Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful Sunday. This time with a quote by James Clear. We think we need to change the results, but results are not the problem. What we really need to change are the systems that cause those results. What are your ideas on that one? Please share them with us today.
Yeah, yeah, what a great habit. What a great reminder to look at the causal factors rather than just what comes after. And this is a quote from James Clear, who also says, "We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems." And he points out that many of the results that we get in life in managing our energy, our personal life, or our goals as it relates to financial success or our health, our fitness, our relationships, our ability to learn, and the amount of stuff that we know, the things that we can do, blah, blah, blah. All of these are lagging measures of our habits, of our inputs, of the things that we do repeatedly over time and are able to automate or in some other form make consistent in our lives. And the thing with habits, in my view, is that it's really the thing that you got to have if you want to get a lot of this stuff. There's certain things in life that you can just take really big swings and do them inconsistently, but really land and you just have them from now on. So that could be like you don't have a habit of buying a house, you just make a project and acquire a house, or you don't make a habit of getting a big tattoo, you figure out to put the steps in place, sign up, and make it happen in a chunky manner. But most of the things that we want to manifest for ourselves as it relates to our lifestyle, our experience, how effective we are, and the things that we have in hand, in other words, accomplishing our goals, do come down to our habits, the degree to which we can decide to do something consistently and actually do it consistently over a long period of time and sustainably, importantly. And the holy grail as it relates to habits, in my opinion, is having the meta skill of habit formation, of having the ability to say and decide, I want to do this new thing for a small amount of time every day for the next year, and actually being able to make that happen. And that's not a far off goal. That's not an unrealistic, unattainable thing for us to do. But it's not something either that is natural to most of us, myself included. It's not something that I myself was born with, and it's not something that I easily was able to do. It took a lot of work on the meta skill itself of habit manipulation, habit formation. And that skill, once again, this is my opinion, my experience, is one of the most useful things that we can cultivate and develop and learn in our life. And it is a skill to learn. It's not something that I am a good or a bad habit manager. I am this or I'm that naturally, and I'm stuck there. It's something that none of us have innately, to my knowledge, and that all of us must find for ourselves and grow into and figure out how we can negotiate and work with ourselves in a sustainable way that works with our energy, where we don't feel like we're fighting ourselves because that's unsustainable. It doesn't last. And it actually can feel like something that we can integrate positively and beneficially into our lives. And there's a number of principles of this that I think are commonly missed that, once again, they don't teach us this in school, even though they really should. And they're perhaps useful things to understand about our dopamine systems, about our decision making abilities, about the degree to which we can lean on discipline versus willpower, and the effects that the various forces of really neurotransmitters and chemicals within our minds have on our capacity to consistently integrate repeated actions over time. And just to list off a few of these things that I think are very important to understand about habits is one, we already do some things habitually. And so we know that we have this capacity to some extent. And most of the things that we do the most consistently, if you pay attention, are right when we wake up, right when we go to bed. We always are going to brush our teeth. And we always are going to do a couple of things that are just an absolute standard staple to our routine. And so as a starting point, just going to list off a few of the tactics that I believe are important. We can stack habits with the things that are already naturally, effortlessly, extremely consistent. And so if I want to do something every single day, it's going to be much easier for me to be consistent on it when it's just paired right on the back end of something that I already do, like absolute clockwork without even trying. So if I want to do some morning routine that helps with my energy, if I stack that right directly attached to brushing my teeth in the morning, then I can sustainably plug that in. And by building a habit stack on top of something that's already 100% consistent, it's way easier to stick to it versus trying to remember to do something at some point in the day, which even if you're really good at habits, oftentimes doesn't work because you're pulled in this direction this day, you're really busy and you got to run from here to here this day. You don't remember because you don't have a strong cue another day. And so all of a sudden, this thing that you've been trying to really remember to do for the first week, now you've forgotten to do. And then now in 2 more days, you forget to do it twice in a row. And now within a couple of weeks, you're not doing it anymore. And habit stacking, in my opinion, is really useful because one, it reduces task switching cost. In other words, you can habitually flow from habit to habit to habit and make it feel like this is one big habit stack that I just do this stack of things every day and I automatically flow from thing to thing to thing instead of trying to remember and placing this burden of memory and intention on top of our daily experience, which maybe can work with one thing that we really want to land. But if we want to integrate 6 habits, we're not going to realistically remember to do them spontaneously throughout each day. And evening habit stacks can be just as effective, in my opinion. But the habits that I really want to stick with on a daily consistent basis, I really improve the chances if I stack it either first thing in the morning or last thing at night, right? Either right before bed or right after brushing my teeth. A couple other things that I think are super important and once again very misunderstood as it relates to habits is perfectionism is the enemy in certain ways, but it's actually the friend in other ways. And so there's this little bit of a paradox where you want to be perfectionist in your consistency to a large extent at least, where it matters if you're able to do this every day because you can take away the energetic cost of decisions. You don't have to decide to do this every day because you've pre-decided that you will do this every day, just like brushing your teeth. And so this commitment up to consistency is once again really important to make it sustainable so you don't feel like you're fighting against yourself. Oh, I know I should do this, but I don't want to do this. If you don't make it a decision and you commit to consistency, you set yourself up for success much better and it feels much more effortless. But on the other side of perfectionism, once again, my experience and what I've seen in others, you really, really help yourself and make things way easier and drastically improve your probability for success if you can commit to being okay with doing a tiny amount, especially when you're first trying to get a habit off the ground. You don't have to try to do this habit to the maximum extent so that you can reap and feel the benefits within the first month. The point of the first month of a habit is just to make the habit consistent. Once you've made a habit consistent, then you can turn the dials to make it as effective as you can or as aligned as you can or whatever. But when you're first starting a habit, you want to start as small as possible, as painless as possible, as frictionless as possible, and fully commit to the consistency of the habit. You integrate it into your life, you integrate it into your routine. You no longer feel like you're deciding to do this. Rather, just like you don't feel like you're deciding to brush your teeth in the morning. It's not a decision that you debate ever. It just is something you automatically do. Just like that, if you can make habits feel the same way, where it's as frictionless as possible, it's already set up for me, so I don't have to do a bunch of pre-steps to get to it. It's as small as possible to start off, so it doesn't feel like some big burden where I'm fighting against myself. And in the first beginning, when I'm trying to get this off the ground, my only goal is not to get any juice from this habit. My only goal is not to maximize how good I can get at this thing. My only goal is not to optimize how perfectly I can perform this task and how uncompromising I can be in my strenuousness, in my vigor, in my effort, in my leaning into pain, in my discipline, whatever. I'm just going to commit to be 100% consistent on the minimum possible amount of this thing until I do it consistently and I've integrated it into the point where it doesn't feel like I'm deciding to do it anymore. And then I can go from 5 minutes of yoga to 10 minutes of yoga, and I can do that for a while. And then I can go from 10 to 15 if I really want to. But starting small and staying small is really important if we actually want to integrate this. Because if I do 30 minutes of yoga every day for 2 weeks, that is not worth much. But if I can do 5 minutes of yoga every day for 2 months, and then do 10 minutes of yoga every day for a year or whatever, apply it to meditation, apply it to walking or running, apply it to going to the gym, apply it to any of these beneficial habits that we can look to integrate for our health and energy. Starting small is what enables us to actually have a chance to make this 100% consistent, not a decision anymore, and therefore something that's sustained for long enough to actually make a transformative effect on our lives, or for us to squeeze whatever juice we anticipate from this intentional repeated action. So starting small is really essential, and leaning on that full get out of jail free card to yourself, truly feeling good about yourself when, okay, normally I do this for 15 minutes a day. I don't feel like doing this and I'm busy and I don't have time. If I can allow myself to just do this for 3 minutes, and I can always give myself that pass to always come back to being small when you need to, but stick to it. Don't skip this. Don't get out of the habit. You've already decided that you're going to do it, but you kind of give yourself some leeway in terms of you can be a little flexible, you can do the minimum possible, you can be small, you can be imperfect, you can do it in a less than ideal way for as many times as you need to without feeling bad about yourself, without feeling like you're fighting yourself or you're frustrated. That is what can enable you to sustain this, because we're going to have ups and downs in our lives. We're not going to have our external environment look or feel like clockwork. And so we do have to sort of negotiate and work around ourselves, our psychology, our external world, the people in it, in order that this can actually be integrated and not some rigid and flexible thing that I'm just going to try to fight and force through. And then as soon as it doesn't, I'm going to give up on it and feel very frustrated with myself. That's a really common mistake that I think many of us that have some achiever personalities are tempted to make, is to be rigid in our habits, inflexible, and an all or nothing mindset, instead of embracing the consistency and embracing doing the minimum possible when we need to, and having some negotiation and workability within our habits. That really, in my view, can help us to actually make this something that sticks, that we can grow on and keep it long enough in order that it can really have some systems level effect over the course of a long period of time. Those are a few tactics that come up for me. What about you? How do you think about habits in your own life? What have you found really useful as it relates to this stuff?
Well, pretty useful is, for example, the tip you shared as well, making the habits easy you want to implement. And make it easy. Make it easy is an essential cornerstone in really learning the skill of meta habit creation and formation, which I am still a student, and not a best student, because not really struggling with adding good habits, because there are these 4 laws of behavior change by James Clear as well. Read this book. But in leaving habits, bad habits away, and trying to unlearn bad habits, this is a whole nother skill, but also a very useful skill of meta habit creation, where you have a trigger or a cue which triggers an action, and this action somehow changes your state, your inner state, and you get a reward from this kind of tension reduction, or from this state change. For example, you see a donut that triggers your your cravings for some sugary food. You take a bite, and then the reward is obviously this sweet rush of dopamine and deliciousness which goes through your body. But if you wanna eat less and less a donut, because you imagine yourself as being a more healthy individual than your actions actually display, then you somehow need to make the space bigger between the trigger and the action. You see a donut, and then you serve the urge. You feel the craving, but you make it obvious for yourself, and you are aware of this craving just happening to you, and on its way to trigger an action. But if you manage to serve this urge just a little longer and make it a habit of making it easy to just breathe one more time before taking the next bite or so, then you are on a way to unlearn this automated behavior. So now we come here to this point where it is obvious what is the key and the access point of habit formation, may it be positive or negative. It is awareness. It is measuring what you do. And whatever you want to do, just measure it, make it obvious, make it transparent, so that you can have insights on it and reflect upon it. And then match it with the goal you have in mind for becoming a person you want to become. As James Clear wrote, because the results you achieve is really a result of the systems which underlie these results. And the systems can be described as well as habits, where this never-ending loop of trigger, action, and reward comes in. And as I said, in trying to unlearn a habit which you don't want to enact any longer, there's this ancient principle is one of the most valuable hints what you should do, and it is wu wei. It means not doing. If something triggers you, then you best widen the space between trigger and your action. Just do nothing. Just observe and explore the urge. And this is a field I have the intention of implementing more into next week, because I want to sleep better. I want to be a healthier individual. Therefore, I need to effectively change what I am doing right now. And most of the things that would have the most effect is putting the phone away after a certain hour of day, or not eating too much Swiss chocolate because it's delicious. But you can like have the reward the same size, but you can like cut down on the sizes of the chocolate pieces, for example. You have so many screws you can twist and turn, so that you can change your system and experiment with the changes of the system, so that it serves the 4 laws of behavior change, which is, like you stated, make it easy, make it very easy, so that you can get into consistency. Make it satisfying and attractive, and imagine yourself becoming a better version of yourself, doing or not doing certain kinds of actions. Make it rewarding as well, because you need to raise the probability of reenacting the same kind of behavior you wanna condition yourself to, and make the next time occurrence of this behavior more likely or less likely, depending on what you want to change. But be reminded that there's a system behind it, and you can effectively influence it if you have the right level of awareness and the right level of what you actually are envisioning yourself becoming. So it also points towards identifying yourself with another kind of person who does another kind of action, and therefore put this in reverse, and every action you take is in essence a vote for the person you want to become. And therefore just vote for the better version of you. You don't have to win all the votes to become actually a better version of yourself, but you have to win enough votes. You have to get in more than 50% of the votes of your actions. That will recondition yourself to becoming what you do. And where attention goes, energy flows. And if the attention goes to the system which produces the results in your life, then you can experiment with it. and see what changes. What are your thoughts on this, Peyton?
Yeah. And what we're pointing to with a lot of this comes down in many ways, ultimately, to recognizing our predicament as human beings trying to manipulate our actions sustainably in a very artificial world that is completely different versus what our DNA is expecting and anticipating and trying to do. And so we should not think about this in terms of our body is a robot and we just need to get better and better at barking orders at it. Or our body is like there's an inner person in here that's sort of in chains, and there's another person with a whip that's trying to like get him into shape and get him to do stuff via punishment and via berating him. And I think that that's a lot of how people are societally conditioned to treat themselves, is with this view of you are falling short. I'm punishing you. You're bad. You missed this. You ate this donut. I feel bad about yourself. Feel shame, and this sort of violence-based self-talk that many of us are programmed with. It doesn't work. It actually is really self-undermining if we're in this mindset of punishing ourselves, of resisting ourselves, of fighting against ourselves. Like we have a little civil war in our head, and we're trying to navigate the external world by fighting against ourselves every single day and berating ourselves toward our habits. When in reality, the situation is much more akin, and this is Jonathan Haidt's image of a rider on an elephant. We, as our intentional mind, as our system two, slow thinking mind that's trying to navigate in a different world, that just came up with these New Year's resolutions that I want to go to the gym consistently, and I want to meditate every day, and I want to eat better, and I want to quit smoking, or something like that. We are not in a position where we can just absolutely beat ourselves into submission, and that's going to be a sustainable solution. In fact, we need to negotiate with ourselves. We need to understand that us as the prefrontal cortex that has these intentions and this identity and wants to be the type of person that reads every day or whatever is not the person in the driver's seat. It is the person, or not the person in the driver's seat of a car that can just decide exactly what happens. Obviously, we can see this from our own experience. We can see this from looking around at how easy it seems to be for everybody in the world to just decide to do stuff consistently. It's not easy for us, and there's a reason. It's that the older part of our brain is oftentimes the more powerful part of our brain, the emotional part of our brain that's not just doing math up there with words, is actually navigating the world. It has emotions, and fundamentally, it's largely ruled by our dopamine system. And our dopamine system is a real double-edged sword in this whole equation. It is the source of our addictions. It is the source and purveyor and perpetuator of many of the habits that we would wish to undo and unlearn. It is what can kind of keep us trapped in certain ruts of repeated behaviors and cue and response, and once again, many forms of addictive behaviors, even those that we don't think of as too addictive. Just like it's pretty easy to see as heroin as an addiction or cigarettes as an addiction. It's also just as applicable to see greed as an addiction, or hatred as an addiction, or anger as an addiction, or pride as an addiction. And all of these things share a lot of common neurochemistry, which revolves around the dopamine system. And this dopamine system can play a large impact on the degree to which we can tame this elephant that we're riding and negotiate with this elephant that we're riding. And importantly, we need to understand that a rider on an elephant is not in a position to force things through sustainably. A rider on an elephant needs to negotiate with this huge beast that he's on. Like this huge beast, like he can try to set the direction, he can create rewards, he can try to make this a path that's really good for the elephant and try to coax the elephant into understanding that this is good for both of us. That's kind of what is within our power. We cannot just muscle this elephant into doing whatever we will. It's way bigger than us. It's way stronger than us. And when we try to do that, which is what I would say is effectively what we're trying to do when we lean on willpower, when we try to lean on motivation, when we try to lean on just when we try to lean on pride, when we try to lean on greed, when we try to lean on a lot of these more forcey type things rather than a more flowy type thing, we're effectively trying to beat this elephant that we're riding into submission. And it's going to rebel against us. It's not going to be sustainable. And none of these habits are worth shit if we only do them for 2 weeks and then they peter out because we try to do it the wrong way. If we do habits in an unsustainable way, they are worthless. If we do habits in a way that is sustainable, where we can do it for years and not for weeks, then they can be totally transformational to our lives. And this applies both to adding new good habits that we want, as well as dropping old habits that we no longer want, that are harmful to our health or to our goals, however we have defined that for ourselves. So this is fundamental in terms of navigating the world effectively. We are not riding a robot. We are not here manipulating a computer, entering in things, and then perfectly acting it out and able to write code that just automates these things within our brain. We don't get to just decide and beat ourselves into submission. It does not work. We have to negotiate with ourselves. We have to make it easy for ourselves. We have to make it rewarding for ourselves. We have to treat ourselves like we're a little kid, because we kind of are. Like, this part of our brain that really is going to run shit is emotional as hell. And if it doesn't like us, if it feels like it's just being unheard and unlistened to and just trying to be brutalized and abused, it is going to fight back and it's going to win. And we're not going to be able to integrate these habits. And so we're not going to be able to change our lives for the better sustainably in a lot of ways. So that's willpower, motivation, whatever. We got to set ourselves up for success. And so I think that in a lot of ways, that making it easy, making it satisfying, making it obvious, reducing friction, or if we're trying to drop a bad habit, creating friction. If you're trying not to eat ice cream, you don't want to have ice cream in your house, because if you have ice cream in your house, there's not much friction to walking over to your fridge in one moment. And it just takes one moment to fuck up your day's intention of not eating ice cream. Don't have it in your house. Or if you're trying to quit a bad habit that's really sticky to you, say, if you're trying to quit, say if you're trying, like, say if you chew tobacco and you want to quit tobacco, if you try to do it and you just are super addicted, it's really hard to drop this. You've tried and failed multiple times, and you just try to do it by throwing it away and just yelling at yourself about it and feeling bad about it, and try to lean on, once again, berating the elephant rather than negotiating with it, you're probably setting yourself up to fail. But if you go and you say, okay, as a next step, I can go from tobacco to these Zins that still give me the same nicotine, it still has the same mouth sensation, but it's not going to give me cancer. Maybe I can make that step first to where I'm no longer actively harming myself, and I still have a habit, I still have an addiction, but I've replaced a harmful addiction for a much less harmful one. And then from there, maybe I can go from 4 Zins a day to 3 to 2, and then maybe I replace 2 of them with bubble gum or something that feels kind of similar to me, or maybe one of the 4 I take is non-nicotine, and then I wean myself off like that with as similar a substitution as possible. So, for example, when I was 22, I was smoking weed every day, and I needed to take a drug test for a corporate job or for a factory job, and I really wanted to smoke this. I was really in the habit. I was in this circumstance where I had nothing to do except chill in nature and smoke weed. And lo and behold, it was hard at first for me to quit until I replaced it with smoking CBD for the first few weeks. And then it was about as similar as possible. It replaced the actual thing that I was trying to cut out, but it still had the same spot in my day. It still had the same sort of sensation experience, and it made it so much easier for me to do this. And I set myself up for success, and I succeeded. And so this is an example where we need to have an uh, I guess an understanding of the situation and a humility to where I can't just smash myself down and say I'm not going to do this anymore, and that's going to work for forever and sustainably, and it's going to be a high probability of success. But I can negotiate with myself and say, how about some of this instead of some of this? How about we do a little more of this and replace some of this with some of this? And oh, how about this thing that's really similar and it feels about the same, and it can kind of give you some of the same rewards and some of the same social effects, or time habit or whatever can feel really similar, but we can just replace the harmful thing for the thing that we want to replace it with, that's more benign, or the thing that we need to get out versus the thing that we can still stick with for a little bit. And this sense, this understanding of we are not in the position of a totalitarian autocrat with unlimited power. We are in the position of a negotiation with a force within us that is overpowering and stronger than us and older than us and deeper than us, in referring to us as our prefrontal cortex, our identity, our intentional mind, our system two thinking. And when we see this, then the meta skill of habit formation is partly a matter of getting better and finding more tools to get really skilled at this negotiation. How can we get really good at cooperating with this elephant and making this elephant really excited about cooperating with us because we're making it feel good, because we're leveraging the emotions, because we're understanding and utilizing the dopamine system, because we're starting small, because we're looking for every possible way to make this easy to sustain. And we're totally forgiving this elephant for the days that it just needs to do 2 minutes of this instead of 20. And for the ways that, oh yeah, it would be this, but I'm just going to go for this imperfect version of this super boiled down version of this today, but that's okay. Just work with me on this consistency thing, elephant, and I can negotiate with you on pretty much everything else. And if we can improve this skill and this self-understanding and riding our own wave and forgiving ourselves and loving ourselves and truly having a relationship that is healthy with this part of us that wants to push back, that doesn't want to do this thing, that's a little unruly, that doesn't feel as excited about what this 10 minutes is going to yield when repeated consistently over the course of 2 years, then we can actually set ourselves up to succeed. And really, habit manipulation in general is a matter of how good we can get at setting ourselves up to succeed. It's not how good we can get at forcing shit through. It's not how good we can get at berating ourselves. It's not how good we can get at being an autocrat within our own mind. How good can we get at negotiating with ourselves? How good can we get at being consistent and forgiving all else? How good can we get at setting ourselves up for success on this stuff? And if we can look at it that way and we can understand our limitations and learn how to work around them and flow around them, then we actually can do these things in our lives consistently and we can decide to. And then we can plug it right into this system that we have of plugging things in consistently. And then we can get more flexible, we can get more happy, we can get more free within our minds, we can get more healthy, we can lose weight, we can drop addictions, we can gain these things that will enrich our lives, we can learn new things, we can improve our energy, which improves our output in the world, we can have deliberate action and deliberate decided action repeated over time to manifest our vision in the world and create whatever life we want for ourselves and those around us. And that really is the promise of getting super good at habits and focusing on this meta skill and being forgiving of ourselves to the fact that we're not already perfect at this and we actually have to develop the tools to be able to get good at doing things consistently over time. And if we can, the reward is immense of that. The potential of that is immense and really immense in ways that we can cash in for our first person experience. Importantly, what it is like to be us is largely a lagging measure of our habit manipulation, the things that we're putting in our mind, the habits of thoughts within our mind, the things that we're exposing ourselves to, the degree to which our dopamine system is totally hijacked by addictions, which narrows the scope of what can bring us pleasure in this life, or the degree to which we are connecting with other people, we are in love, we are in nature, we are exercising, our energy feels good, we're in movement. And these other positive habits can lead to incredible flourishing that just willpower, just chunky sprints, just projects, just one-off decisions can never, ever have the promise of yielding for us in certain dimensions. So a lot about my thoughts about habits, really exciting stuff, and just so immensely practical, so immensely transformative as one set of skills that really does change the ability to which we can steer our lives in the direction that we want to. What are your
Yeah,
closing thoughts around the promise and fruits of habit manipulation, my man?
yeah, it's like it's a beautiful metaphor of the elephant you want to steer and you have to negotiate with. And becoming skillful and learning how to negotiate better over time with the elephant, which you got in your brain, um, is the art of making time your ally. Because if you have good habits and repeat them over and over and over again, they are like good investments which compound over and over and over again. Leaving out bad habits that also send you down a spiral of endless dopamine traps, of endless craving for more and bigger hits and bigger hits and bigger hits, because the hits cannot get big enough to satisfy you if you crave more. Because if you want more, there's nothing that satisfies it. And therefore, the art of making time your ally, of the ability to tune the strings of your piano and condition yourself time and time again. So nothing is perfect. We are no robots. We cannot just program ourselves with words or something. have to engineer the system a little bit better. Like if you have the trigger, action, and reward framework, you also can see where you can attach your engineering mind to it. If you wanna remove the trigger from a bad habit, you just have to change your environment. And the environment is a system which produces the cues and the triggers for your cravings, for example. But also, if you want to learn an instrument, and just put it in front of your face, that you see it every day. So what I did with my hung drum, I just put it out there in front of my face, and now I play it regularly, because it's just so rewarding to play it, because you feel good, you feel in a meditative state. It is a beautiful to play it in itself, and it's obvious to play it because it just sits there. And the same thing with creating friction, you just put it out of your face. And therefore, also you can change the environment the elephant moves within. So there's much more to learn than just negotiating. Is also to move gracefully, to envision which direction you actually wanna move, and also changing the environment where you move, and therefore control the space of potential actions through you removing triggers or adding triggers that you can associate with certain behaviors, to get some rewards in terms of a better you, or a better feeling about you. And therefore, changing also the results which your underlying systems produce, so that you can enjoy the fruits and the rewards of the effort of investing in learning this meta skill of habit manipulation. And there's always going to be some kind of backlash. There's always going to be some kind of missed workouts. So the recommendation from James Clear is one workout is just a missed workout, but 2 missed workouts is the beginning of a new habit. And therefore, really boil it down to the most simple, most easy, and most obvious thing to do, even just for 1 minute. And doing it consistently increases the odds of you one day enjoying the rewards of these tiny investments, because you can form them if they are grown into a full-blown elephant. You can form and negotiate with them, and therefore create your own life, be the architect of your own life, and shape the trajectory your life will take. So may we live a well and happy life, and vote for the persons we want to become.
Oh yeah, man. Maybe we get really skilled at riding this awesome elephant that we find ourselves atop of, and working with it, and not having a civil war in ourselves, but actually having an attitude of self-love, self-forgiveness, non-perfectionism, and a deliberate action in order to create systems in our lives, rather than just having fantasies of goals that we don't have the means to accomplish. So appreciate you. Thank you
Definitely.
very much for these
Kindness and
thoughts.
compassion moves us further ahead.
No
So
doubt
have a
about that.
great week, my man,
You as well. Have a good one.
and see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank
Bye
you
bye.
for the talk, man. Bye bye.
Likewise.